Passing the front of Hotel Sol every morning still felt strange for Caio. Well-dressed guests stepped out under the valet roof. Fancy cars stopped with their engines running. Suitcase rolled toward the glass doors. Caio kept riding. His motorbike went around the side, all the way to the staff parking by the garbage dump. Caio killed the engine and let the bike lean into its usual place. The pool music had not started yet, but the hotel was already awake. Barraca Sol already had its shutter halfway up. Bento stood behind the counter with his black cap turned backward, one foot on a crate.
You're late.
Bento said.
No, you're early.
He moved the ketchup beside the mustard, pushed the paper sleeves away from the heat, and checked the grill knob. The metal was still cold. Bento watched him fix the station and took one fry from a tray that should not have been opened yet.
That's inventory. It's my breakfast. You little theft.
Bento ate it anyway. Tiago came in through the staff entrance with the bag over one shoulder and his phone in his hand. The manager waited near the locker room with folded white shirt, red shorts, a whistle, and a small locker key in his hand.
Tiago? Yes.
The manager handed him the tank top first. It was clean, stiff from the fold. The red shorts came next with Lifeguard printed across in white, folded under the whistle cord. Last came the key, small and silver, tagged with a number.
We went over the zones yesterday. You know the rules, and you have experience, so I'm not going to repeat the whole speech. I understand.
The manager led him through the glass door. The pool sat open under the morning sun. The bar shutter was halfway up.
Think that's the new Lifeguard?
Bento lifted his chin toward him.
Change. Pool opens at 10.
The manager checked his watch and pointed toward the locker room. Tiago turned toward the door.
And Tiago.
He stopped.
Summer opening party starts at 7 tonight. You are not scheduled. Another team covers the deck, but staff can come as guests. It is not your welcome party, but you can treat it like one.
The manager tucked the clipboard under his arm.
Thanks. I'll come by. Good. Learn at the pool by day first.
The manager walked toward the towel cart. Tiago went into the locker room.
He looks strict.
Caio checked the grill again, still heating. Tiago crossed to the Lifeguard chair. The rescue tube leaned against the lower step, where the manager had left it. Tiago checked the strap, set his phone and water bottle on the small platform behind his foot, and climbed into the chair. At 10, the rope came down. Guests enter in small groups. A family with 2 children came first. The first order came from a man in blue swim shorts, who asked if they had breakfast burgers. Bento said yes. Before Kai could say the grill had just opened, Caio put the patty down, pressed it once, and listened to the sound take hold. The pool filled around them. Tiago checked the steps. A boy climbed out with water running from his shorts. He took 2 fast steps toward his towel. Tiago brought the whistle to his mouth and blew once.
Walk!
Bento looked over.
Strict chair.
Caio slid the first burger in a sleeve and pushed it toward him. Bento called a number and gave the guest his smile, the one he used when he wanted tips and had done nothing to earn them. 2 women came through the gate together. Camilla wore red sunglasses pushed into her hair and walked like the deck had been arranged for her ankles. Luna came beside her in a green cover-up, a straw bag against her hip, her smile already out before she reached anyone.
Camila's here. Don't embarrass the stand. I represent the stand. That is what worries me.
He raised one hand over the register. Camilla looked over, lowered her sunglasses with one finger, and gave him 2 small taps of her hand near her drink. Then she turned back to Luna. Bento dropped his hand. Luna saw Caio and waved properly. Caio took the towel from his waist, wiped his hands, and stepped around the counter. Luna opened her arms first. Caio kissed the air beside her cheek, quick and clean. Camilla turned after her, smiling now, and he greeted her the same way.
Pool looks alive today.
Give it 20 minutes. Someone will drop fries near the edge.
New Lifeguard?
Looks like. He started 10 minutes ago. Give him time to disappoint you.
Camilla laughed and lifted her sunglasses back into her hair.
That's not fair. They know you. That's the lesson. You weaponized friendship. You waved like a tourist. She gave me something. She gave you customer service.
The lifeguard looked toward the sound. His eyes passed over Barraca Sol. This time, Caio did not turn fast enough. The lifeguard's gaze held for one clean second from the chair. Juan stepped out of his car under the front shade of Hotel Sol. The hotel doors opened ahead of him, glass sliding apart.
Pool, Senor Juan? Where else?
He handed the key to the valet. The valet smiled because that was what they did when they knew the answer. Juan crossed the entrance. The hotel manager stood near the corridor to the pool, with a clipboard tucked under one arm.
Bom dia, Juan. Marcelo. Your usual row is open. Good. You coming tonight? To what?
Marcelo looked up from the clipboard.
The summer opening party.
Juan slid the sunglass between two fingers and looked toward the pool corridor.
I'll think about it. It starts at 7. I didn't say I'll go. You should come. We'll see.
Juan smiled enough to answer, and not enough to promise. Marcelo checked something on the clipboard and stepped aside. Juan moved past him toward the pool doors. Bento leaned beside the register and lowered his voice.
Your ex is back. His name is Juan. Whatever, ex.
At the gate, Juan accepted the wristband and did not look at it. He wore white wide leg pants and a dark palm print near one thigh, an open cream shirt, sandals, sunglasses. He walked toward the row by the glass railing. Bento rested his elbows on the counter.
Ex looks expensive today. Stop calling him that. Juan looks expensive today.
Caio took one basket from the shelf and set it beside the grill. Juan crossed to his row. Camilla turned first from the umbrellas. Luna followed beside her in a green cover-up, her smile already placed and softer than Camilla's. Caio finally looked. His eyes moved from the grill to the counter, then to Juan's row, then back to the grill. Juan reached his chair and placed his towel at the head. The sunglasses went beside it. He took off the cream shirt and folded it once because the deck had eyes, and messy closes made messy conclusions. Camilla looked. Luna looked. The lifeguard checked the shallow steps. Juan sat on the chair with one leg stretched out and one bent. The sunglasses went on. His face turned toward the water, but his ankles held a stand.
He knows we can see him, right?
Bento watched him over the register.
He knows everyone can see him. That sounds exhausting. Yeah, it is.
He leaned back and reached for the earbuds tucked under his folded shirt. One went in, then the other. The music came low at first, and he turned it up until the pool softened around the edges. That was the part people always got wrong. They thought he lay there to count who looked. Sometimes he did. Most times, the sun, the music, and the small clean pleasure of having nowhere to be until the heat decided he had enough. Caio turned the next patty, salted fries, wiped sauce from the counter, and kept his eyes where work could excuse them. Bento leaned beside the register, pretending to count coins from the cash drawer, while watching Juan through the corner of his eye. He closed his eyes. The music took the pull away by degrees, pulling the voices back.
X is on already. How many times? Call him Juan. Juan is performing early today. He is just sunbathing. Exactly.
Caio slid a basket toward him. Bento called a number and gave the guest his smile. The guest took the basket and walked away with the fries too close to the pool. The lifeguard pointed from the chair. The guest moved back. Bento looked impressed again.
You saw that, right? You saw the lifeguard?
Caio reached for the towel at his waist.
Hands down.
The whistle cut through the song. Not the same sound as before.
Out for 5.
He waited until the rules ended, then lowered the whistle and returned to the pool. The sound cut through the music and turned half the deck toward the water. Juan opened his eyes behind the sunglasses again, but Tiago stayed with the work. His eyes moved from the boy to the girl, then to the mother near the rail, checking the whole small mess until it held its shapes again. Juan stood. The sunglasses stayed on the chair. He crossed toward the marked lane. Bento looked over the register. Caio held one basket halfway across the counter and stopped there. Juan stepped to the edge of the marked lane and rolled his shoulder once. The water threw light up onto his legs. The tile burned under his feet. The pool opened cold around his hand, then closed over his back. The noise vanished first. The heat went next. For 5 strokes, there was only water, pressure, and the clean pull of the lane. His hand gripped the tile. Water ran down his face. The boy on the towel clapped once. Tiago pointed at him.
5 minutes.
The boy dropped his hand to his lap. Juan laughed, but the sound broke against the pull noise. Tiago looked at the pull first because he was good at his job. Then he looked back at Juan because the job was not the only thing working. Juan pushed off the wall. The water slid over his shoulders, and the deck returned in pieces. Tiago kept one hand on the arm of the chair and looked back. Water ran from his shorts and crossed the tile in a line that broke around the drain. He reached for a towel and rubbed it once across his face.
Nice form.
Tiago said.
I try to keep the new lifeguard awake. So you know I'm new. Everyone knows. That fast? What's your name? Tiago. Juan.
Tiago checked the shallow side. The boy still sat on the towel. Juan turned the towel once in his hands.
Strict chair.
He said.
Safe chair. Same thing? Not always.
Juan's smile widened at one corner.
Good to know.
Bento watched them, then looked at Caio.
X is flirting with the lifeguard.
Caio opened the cooler and took out 2 cola bottles. Juan walked back toward the row by the railing. Halfway there, he stopped. Caio would see the move. Juan picked up his things and carried them to the sunbed near the deep side. Not the closest chair, but close enough.
No way, he's fast today. X moved chairs. Juan moved chairs. That's what I said.
Caio took the towel from his waist, wiped the counter, and kept wiping after the sauce was gone. The new chair worked. Juan leaned back and kept his eyes open behind the sunglasses. From the deck, it would look like sunbathing again. Caio had the stand, Tiago had the chair, and now both of them sat inside the same angle. The lunch rush thinned in pieces. A child dropped a fry near the edge.
Leave it.
Tiago stood on the lower step of the chair before the child's fingers reached the tile. The white tank top pulled flat across his stomach. Juan looked once, then looked at his own stomach. Fine. Not bad. At 1:26, Juan sat up and took off his sunglasses. Tiago looked down from the chair. Then his eyes moved past Juan toward Barraca Sol. Caio stood behind the counter with the towel in his hand.
Want to join me for lunch? I can't leave the chair until the next guard takes it. When is that? 2.
Juan knew it was 2. He lifted his bottle and drank, then lowered it toward Barraca Sol and crossed the deck. Caio turned to the grill before Juan reached the counter. Bento went quiet beside him. That was worse than when he talked. Juan stopped at Barraca Sol and rested one forearm on the counter.
Busy? You can see the line. There is no line. There was. Good thing I waited. Yeah, for a second I thought you were skipping lunch.
Juan smiled. Bento looked between them. Juan looked at Bento.
I see you're still charming. Yeah, same I hear about you.
Juan turned back to Caio.
Cheese with no onion. I know. I didn't order yet. You came to the counter. That means burger? With you, yes.
Bento made a small sound. Caio ignored him.
Cola?
Juan looked toward the lifeguard chair. Tiago still sat above the pool. One foot rested on the lower bar. The white tank top still sat too well at his waist.
Water. Since when? Since today.
Caio pulled one bottle from the cooler and set it beside the basket. Juan carried the basket and water to the small table nearest Barraca Sol and sat with his back angled just enough to keep the stand in reach. The next lifeguard arrived at 1:54.
Go grab lunch. Burgers are free for pool staff. Free? 1 burger, 1 drink. They pretend it builds loyalty. Does it?
At Barraca Sol, Bento slid 2 drinks across the counter and lifted his chin toward Tiago. Caio stood at the grill, back turned, one hand on the spatula. Bento said something to him and pointed with his eyes. Caio turned.
Hey, How was your first day?
Good. Burger? The other lifeguard said staff get one.
He told the truth. Cheese, onion?
Yes.
Cola?
Yes.
Caio turned to the grill. Juan's voice came from the table beside the stand.
Tiago,
Tiago turned.
sit.
Juan sat at the small table nearest Barraca Sol. Tiago looked back at Caio. Caio kept his hand on the spatula and lifted his chin toward the table.
I'll bring it.
Tiago stepped away from the counter and sat across from Juan.
It's not 2 yet.
Juan said.
1:59. So you're not strict.
Tiago's eyes came back to him.
I'm off the chair.
Bento moved behind Caio and patted his butt twice.
One for the lifeguard, one for X. His name is Juan. I know. Go.
Staff lunch. Thank you.
Caio kept his fingers on the edge of the basket for one beat, then released it.
You make mine look smaller on purpose? It's the same.
Caio looked at him.
Well, you know how I like it.
Juan leaned back. Caio took the towel from his waist and folded it once in his hand.
Yeah. Cheese with no onion.
Tiago opened the cola. The bottle hissed. Juan looked at him.
He remembers everyone's order.
Caio looked toward the pool.
I do not.
Caio did not. He remembered Juan's. Camilla and Luna came through with drinks, turning the table bright for a few minutes. Camilla greeted Juan first. Luna greeted Tiago. They asked about the party tonight, and the answers landed one by one. 3 yeses at the same table. Caio watched them leave, then turned toward the stand.
I need to get back.
Juan lifted his drink.
Go save the burgers.
Caio looked over his shoulder.
Go finish your water.
The next 20 minutes moved through lunch noise. Tiago ate with Juan. He kept looking toward the pool, like the chair still had a string tied to him. Then his eyes came to Barraca Sol, and Caio's were already there. Tiago finished enough of the food to stand, capped the cola, and carried the basket back to the counter.
Done?
Yeah.
Caio took it from him.
You need to change?
Yeah.
Juan came up behind Tiago with his drink in hand.
I'll see you boys tonight.
Caio's hand tightened once around the basket.
Yeah. See you both tonight.
Caio nodded. Tiago stepped away. Juan stayed. Bento looked from Caio to Juan, then picked up a tray and carried it to the sink.
You thought about it?
Juan rested both hands on the counter.
About what?
Caio wiped one spot near the register. Juan leaned closer.
Tonight.
Yeah. I'm going to the party. That's not what I asked.
Bento dropped something metal near the sink on purpose. Caio looked back at him.
I'm working. Tonight, then.
Caio did not answer, but that was also an answer. Bento appeared beside Caio the second Juan was out of reach. Caio opened the register drawer and closed it again. Juan walked back toward the sunbeds. Tiago crossed toward the locker room. He opened his locker, took off the white lifeguard shirt, and changed out of the red shorts. His own clothes went back on. When he stepped back onto the deck, he was not the lifeguard in the chair anymore. The stand held one side. The sunbed held the other. Tiago stood with his phone in his pocket, and the party waiting at 7. At 3, the manager came across the deck with his clipboard tucked under one arm. He stopped at the counter.
Small problem tonight.
Bento's face changed before the problem arrived.
One bartender called out. I need one of you to help the party team.
Bento turned to Caio. His eyes had already packed the bag and left the hotel.
I only need one. 7 to close. Bar support, mostly.
Caio looked at the hook where his apron hung.
I'll do it.
Bento exhaled like someone had pulled him out of a deep end. The manager nodded.
Good. Black shirt if you have one. No apron. Staff entrance by 6:30.
Got it.
He tapped the clipboard against his palm and walked toward the bar. Bento turned to Caio.
I owe you. You don't owe me anything, man.
The pool had changed again. Afternoon light had moved across the tile. Juan was still there. He saw Caio looking and lifted one hand. Caio walked toward the staff gate. Bento caught up with his backpack hanging from one shoulder.
I'll pick you up. You? Yeah, me. I have a car.
Only then did Juan pack. He walked toward the showers. The outdoor shower area sat behind the tiled partition near the wall. One guest rinsed his feet at the far end. Juan took the corner shower and set his things on the dry bench. The water hit cold first, then warm. The deck noise flattened behind the partition, and for the first time since he had walked in, nobody had a clean angle of him. Caio's motorbike waited where he had left it. He put the helmet on and swung one leg over the bike. Bento stepped back from the front wheel. Caio turned the key. The engine caught on the second try.
Caio, 6:15. I pick you up. Go home, Bento. See you.
As Juan reached for his shirt, his phone vibrated from inside the folded pants. Rafa, his co-worker.
I'm leaving.
Juan picked up the towel and dried the back of his neck.
I said I'll be there soon.
Juan checked the time on the screen.
Send me the deck again.
Rafa said something about already sending it. Juan ended the call. Marcelo crossed the deck with his clipboard and stopped when he saw him.
Leaving already? Can you get champagne ready for me at the party? How many?
Marcelo's eyes dropped to the clipboard.
1 bottle.
Marcelo wrote something down. Then Juan pushed the glass door open. Tonight the pool closes. The music starts. Caio will be behind the bar. Tiago will be out of uniform. And Juan will arrive with no water to dive into. Chapter 4 begins at the summer opening party. I've added a poll in the description, so tell me who you want to end up together. You can also leave a comment below.
See you in Chapter 4. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more stories on gay audiobooks.
YouTube membership is also open, behind closed doors. If you'd like to support me and help me keep creating these stories, please consider joining. Thank you for listening.